What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another subscriber Q&A video. First of all, I want to say thank you to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate the support. For anyone interested in becoming a patron, the link for the Patreon account is in all of the video descriptions for all of my videos. And thank you again for tuning in. We're going to be giving away that AFA 75 plus dark brown stitch Jawa that was kindly donated to the channel by Robert W., a good friend of mine. So we'll do that in a little while. But let's go ahead and dig right into the questions. Gamer Glips, a former winner for one of the subscriber giveaways, he asks, what are your feelings about the U grade? I heard someone say that the other day that they thought it was ruining the grading system and wanted to hear your thoughts. Well, let's talk about the U grade. So here are some examples in my collection that are all U graded. They're U85 and U90. Very nice figures. Now, the U grade doesn't really ruin grading anymore because they stopped doing it. And I've talked about this in past videos before, but AFA stopped doing the U grade. And for those who are new to the channel and new to uncirculated grading, what that really means is that someone submitted these figures, all 5 of these figures, to AFA while still on a beat-up card. And AFA took it off the card and graded just the loose figure. But as you can see, they add a U to the label, U90 for this one. And what that means is it's uncirculated. It was never opened. And so AFA stopped doing that about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Collector Archive Services never offered the U grade. The first company to remove the U grading was UKG in the United Kingdom. So that is no longer done. So it's not really ruining grading anymore. But in the past, I think maybe what you're asking is, was it ruining people's chances of getting a carded figure? And the answer is yes. You know, for someone who didn't particularly care about having a loose graded figure, but would prefer to have it on a card, beat up or not, then the U grade system was removing those items from the population of existing vintage Star Wars carded figures. So, that's why I think a lot of the grading companies, or all the grading companies, got rid of it, is because there was enough complaints from collectors that they had to stop doing that. And I think it was the right call. I don't buy U graded figures anymore. I'm not going to get rid of my U graded figures because I think they are really nice looking. And they do command a premium on the market. But I try to avoid buying them now just because, I don't want to support the concept of U grading any more than I already have. And so I'm not going to sell these or do anything drastic, but at the same time, I can understand why it was taken off, why it was taken away from as an option for grading. All that being said, these do command a premium now. I think the last U90 Bosk that I saw sold for something ridiculous, like $600 plus. And usually U90s and U95s especially, those go for insane dollars, just complete insanity, some of the prices I've seen. They've since come back down a little bit. I think a lot of it's just the novelty, knowing that you can't get U90s, U85s anymore, that anything graded from about 2 years ago by AFA and on, they're not going to receive that U grade anymore. So hopefully that answers your question.
Mark Burkheiser asks, if you were to buy a vintage figure for an investment, which one and why under $500? First of all, you'll notice on the slide that I put investment in quotation marks. Plastic dolls are not a good investment. I always treat everything like they're going to go to zero in terms of value. This is really just play money we're talking about, in my opinion. But that being said, if I was going to buy a figure, and only one figure, it would probably be one of these two if I was looking to put my money somewhere safe. High grade Princess Leia's or Luke Farm Boy's first 12 figures are always in demand with collectors, always. And in general, they always tend to go up in value in the long run. You might have little dips in prices or recessions where the prices come back down a little bit. But over the long haul, these two figures are beautiful, number one. But number two, if you just got some play money and you want to put it to work, you will never go wrong with either one of these. I do think that the modern vintage collection line is something to consider if you have a different budget or want something a little off the wall in terms of putting play money to work. Obviously, Ahsoka there in the middle is pretty expensive, but two others to consider are K2SO and Cassian Andor, because Disney Plus has these shows coming out focused on these characters, and I do believe that you can see a pretty big bump in the Cassian Andor and K2SO figures as those shows come out, if they are popular. Ahsoka, again, is obviously very expensive, but in terms of blue chip stocks for the modern vintage collection line, that is definitely it. Tim Day asks, my question is big. How much do you estimate you've spent building your entire collection? Well, Tim, I live in the United States of America, and one of the great things about the U.S. is that we have what's called the Fifth Amendment, and that protects myself against any kind of self-incrimination, and it's a really nice thing that comes in handy when your family occasionally watches your videos. So I'm going to plead the Fifth, and God bless the United States of America.
Next question comes from Keith Guppy. And first of all, Keith, thank you for being such a longtime supporter of the channel and for being a Patreon supporter also. He says, hi, mate, do you have a rough set budget schedule month, for example, and do you break that down further in modern / vintage and even figures / ships? So do I have a budget? And the answer is absolutely yes. I am extremely diligent with tracking what I spend each month. Now, I want to go on record here that says that, you know, everyone's got their own budget, so I recognize that. And my budget's certainly less than some collectors I know that I'm friends with, and it's certainly more. But that being said, I keep a very strict spreadsheet, and I basically divide that into two categories. One being grading costs, which is not, you know, cheap. Grading stuff is expensive. I recognize that. So I keep track of what my planned items are each month, if there is anything for that month, in terms of grading costs, as well as shipping. Shipping adds up very, very quickly. So I also add in the cost to ship to the grading companies, as well as the cost to ship back. And I've got a batch coming back from Collector Archive Services any day now, and just the shipping alone was $96. So it was very, very expensive. And so I try to split that up, you know, fairly evenly, just so I have kind of new stuff coming in. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But here are some examples of items that I've picked up fairly recently, all within the last month. And let's start with the super hot stuff. This is a Polish bootleg 1980s Yoda. This is the dark green with red. I want to say thank you to Robert W. and to Dustin B. for the help with acquiring this. He's in near mint condition. This is fully articulated. This is one of 65 known examples, according to Jacob Brzezinski's book on the Polish bootlegs. So these are very rare. This is incomplete. He normally comes with a utility belt, cane, and snake. The canes are very, very rare, maybe 17 known to exist still. But I've got the loose figure just by himself. I'm going to get him graded by Collector Archive, and this was not cheap. You know, being one of only 65 known examples, he was very, very expensive. So that kind of blew my budget for the month. And I'm going to digress for a second and say that, you know, I had mentioned that I'm not buying bootlegs. Well, this is a case where one popped into my availability radar, and the price was right, certainly, thanks to Dustin and Robert. So I bought it. And, you know, I just don't have one of these, and they come up so rarely that I had to go ahead and take advantage of it. And with that one, I also got this Polish bootleg, unarticulated 1980s Luke Farmboy. And you guys have seen this on my Instagram page, but he's got the blonde hair, the white smock, and kind of a bluish denim look to his pants, the yellow saber, really nice example. So these are two examples that I was not planning on buying, but because they became available, you know, unexpectedly, I had to budget for them because I wanted to get them. So that kind of blew my budget for the month, and so I'm now in a holding pattern and not buying anything, obviously, since these are two fairly expensive figures. But I also, before I bought those, I also bought this. This is a Canadian freeze frame action slide, Power of the Force 2 Boba Fett. It's in near mint condition. And I've forgotten your name. I apologize, but the gentleman that sold it to me does watch the channel. So if you're watching this, I'm so sorry that I forgot to include a shout out to you. I'll look you up on my Facebook private messages and include a shout out to you when this returns from Collector Archive. I'm going to send this in the next few weeks. So really beautiful example of the Power of the Force 2 freeze frame. You can see the multiple languages there. So this is the Canadian version. The Canadian version of the freeze frame action slide. I've already got the US card, and now I've got the Canadian card. And then finally, this I picked up from Dark Side Alliance on Facebook. This is a Reese Palitoy Tri-Logo, and he is packed with 2 weapons, so it's an error card. And you can see the double weapons inside the blister there. It's factory sealed. It does have some dings on the blister there, but the card is in great shape. I'm expecting a 75 plus for the grade on this one. We'll see what it gets. Maybe I'll eke out an 80, but I doubt it. And that's okay, because it's an error. And as you guys know, I like to collect errors when I can find them. But it's pretty cool to see one packed in with both weapons there. And so these were all purchased within the last month, so that kind of blew my budget. And so now I'll go. I'm very strict, though. I keep track of it, and this kind of blew my budget, and I won't be buying for a while. And maybe next month I'll buy some more. If not, it's funny. Sometimes I have money. I have money available to buy stuff, but I just don't. I think I get disgusted with myself sometimes, and I see all the cool stuff coming back from the graders, and I just take a break. So I'm in that mode right now. Bothan 007, and great name, by the way. Bothan 007. Greetings from Canada. Congratulations on 1,500 subs. What country of origin gives you the most pride or satisfaction when you acquire a figure from said country? Right now, I would have to say it would be Spanish figures. And I put in front of you guys, what's that? 4, 5, 7, 8 or 9 Spanish PBPs and Spanish POCs. All of these are graded 85 by either Collector Archive, UKG, or AFA. So I put together a nice little run, and I certainly have others. But right now, I would say it would be Spanish figures. But the negative is Spanish figures have gotten insanely expensive. It's like the way Mexican Lily Letty figures were 3 or 4 years ago, where everyone was in demand for Lily Lettys, and those kept going up and up in price. Those have since come down, so I've started going after Lily Lettys now instead of Spanish figures. But the Spanish figures in like Echo Base Vintage Variants in the Facebook group, they get listed and they're gone in seconds, and they are extremely expensive now. So I think a lot of it's just because we're still kind of learning, and Javier Rui Lopez's book is starting to gain more traction with different volumes, and he's putting out a new edition and educating the community more about these Spanish figures. But I certainly love the different color variations and kind of the history behind them. And I would say that those give me the most satisfaction right now, but I have not been buying anything recently just because they've gotten so expensive.
Okay, let's go ahead and choose the winner for the AFA 75 Plus Dark Brown Stitch Jawa. I've entered in the URL for my video. We're going to filter out duplicate users. Let's get the number of YouTube comments. We have 63 unique comments, and let's choose the winner. The winner is Mr. King. Mr. King, you are the winner. Congratulations. Please reach out to me by Instagram at ActionFigureGrader through private message, and I will get your mailing address and send you this Jawa. Thank you again also to Robert W. for kindly donating the Jawa to the channel as a giveaway. Joseph Spahn asks, have you ever insured your collection? Another question, do you have any Ewok cartoon or Droids cartoon graded figures? Well, thank you, Joseph, for watching. First, on the insurance question, yes, I do have all of my figures insured. I have a spreadsheet, and I keep track of that and try to update it about once a month. And then at the end of each year, I send that to my insurance provider, so they have that on file. Mine is just covered through my homeowner's policy, and it covers up to way above what my collection is worth. If you rent or if you own a condo, then I would recommend that you get a contents policy. They're not very expensive, maybe $150 a year, and that protects you in the event that your items are stolen or damaged in a fire or whatnot. The second part of your question, no, I do not have any Droids or Ewoks figures. For whatever reason, I just have not gotten around to picking up any of these. Maybe one day, but if you want to see some amazing examples of droids or Ewoks figures, just check out the Blacked Out Ewoks on YouTube. He has almost everything in the entire run for both of these.
Miles Hulk asked, "Cool Logres, who is your favorite character in the original trilogy after Fett?" Boba Fett's actually not my favorite character. Certainly I like collecting different variations of him, but easily my favorite characters in the original trilogy are Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. I have certainly talked about both at length in the past, but I just for the purposes of this question, I put out some examples. I've got a Clipper mailed away. I've got a signed Power of the Force. I've got the Lily Letty Made in Mexico US card, and I got a few bootlegs here. So in general, I would say Darth Vader and his backstory. He's a complicated character dating back to, the new trilogy where, it shows Anakin kind of turning to the dark side, and then his redemption in the original trilogy in Return of the Jedi. I just feel like he has a nice complicated arc, and certainly is the main driver for all of the movies thus far with the Skywalker saga. So that's my favorite character.
Adam Golaski asks, have the grading companies ever told you that what you sent was reproduction, either the accessory or the figure? Thank you for offering this generous giveaway. Well, thank you, Adam, for watching. Yes, this has happened to me twice, and that's pretty good considering how many items I've sent in over the years. The first one where it happened was a Chinese International Heroes Storm Shadow, and I put an example here of a real one, but as you can see in the far right photo, the Hasbro logo, the A in the Hasbro logo is actually an R for the fake ones, and apparently because Storm Shadow is so popular with collectors that a lot of Chinese knockoff makers have made almost exact replicas of this item. And I bought one that I thought was legitimate. I sent it into AFA and they said, no, this is the fake. And if I had been more careful looking at the logo, I would have noticed that the A in Hasbro was actually an R. And that's how to spot one of these fakes. The only other time it's happened to me was for a boxed, sealed Emperor Vintage Kenner mail away, and apparently the box was fake. The figure and the baggie was actually real, but the box itself was fake, and AFA rejected that one as well. The negative is when you send in items that are rejected by AFA, you still get charged the grading fees. So you want to be really careful about avoiding reproductions and fakes, but it's a constant battle, and as 3D printing technology has improved, accessory fakes are just all over the place, and so you just got to be really careful.
NLR Gula. He asked me, as collectors, we are all ready to talk about our favorite finds, but for some, not all deals go as planned. Has there ever been a time where you may have purchased something you regretted or were scammed? If so, what kind of advice can you offer to new Star Wars collectors or collectors in general to avoid any such situations? This is a great question, and yes, as I previously just mentioned in this video, I did buy 3 boxed Emperor mail-aways on Facebook, and I don't blame the seller because he was just reselling a huge lot of them, and I know him well, so I'm not. This is not me criticizing the seller, but when he got these from whoever it was originally, some of them were fake. So I got 3 of them from him. One of them came back fine, and this was the AFA mail away. One of them, the box was fake, so I got the bagged figure just graded by itself. And one of them, the box and the bag were fake, but the figure was legit. So it ended up working out okay, but I certainly, looking back at it, it was a shame because I did get, I did overpay because I was buying sealed mailer boxes instead of loose figure and just a baggie by itself. So that didn't work out well. I've had a couple of items that have gotten damaged in shipping, either because the seller was a moron and didn't pack it properly. I had like a Sakuda Bausch figure that was coming from Japan. He put 0 wrapping on it and the whole thing just shattered. But, stuff like that does happen, and I got my money back eventually. In terms of scamming, I did buy with goods and services PayPal a Boba Fett bootleg that turned out to be a fake, so I got my money back there. I've had a couple of other kind of instances where I just had a bad feeling going into it, and it ended up not being a transaction that was legitimate. So I paid goods and services PayPal, so I was protected. So, Usually when you have that bad feeling, don't buy it. That's been my experience in the past. In terms of advice, I would advise you to take a look at some of the videos I've put together, like my Facebook buying video, and things like that. I've tried to kind of give some tips in terms of buying, but the number one tip is to, if you have a bad feeling or you don't know the seller and he seems kind of sketchy, then walk away. There's always going to be others. And the number two piece of advice is to always pay goods and services on PayPal instead of friends and family. That way you're always protected and eventually you always get your money back. Last question before we wrap this video up. Michael Faber asks, where are the places you go to find your new acquisitions? What are the best forums / websites / markets / groups to look to? Well, that's a great question, Michael. Again, I did put together a Facebook buying video where I make some recommendations in terms of buying tips as well as groups to join. I've got examples here. All of these came either from friends in the toy community or through people I've met on Facebook. So buying on Facebook, in my opinion, is probably the best in terms of finding rarities, whether it's rare bootlegs or Lily Letty overstock or Spanish PBP figures, or POC, I guess this is a POC. But in general, I think that Facebook is going to be your go-to for finding rarities. There's nothing wrong with buying on eBay. Just be aware that you're probably going to be overpaying versus what you'd find it on Facebook for, but you do have better buyer protection there. And I've even found awesome stuff on Etsy.com, which is like a arts and crafts website. I found a overstock Uze Turkish bootleg that was already graded there for about a third of where they go for now. So anywhere and everywhere you can find deals, but you just have to be patient and you just have to take the right precautions so you don't get ripped off. That's really all I had for this episode. If I didn't get to your question, I will definitely try to get to it in another session of Q&A. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe for future content. I'm always trying to put out new and different content, and I would appreciate a subscription and a like. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon.